The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to the Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Should be the kind of fair questions I usually get. So,
Mr. Colombe.
tell me about being a black winemaker.
Oh, my.
There we go.
The same question people ask Sam.
Ah, there we go.
I'm wearing a black shirt.
Hey,
Dude, pull the 13. Don't be shy. Like I know what this shit tastes like. This shit tastes like work.
and there you go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Winemakers. I'm John Myers with Sam Couturi, James Joyner, and Bart Hansen is on assignment, and
He's
Brian Casey
Processing fruit. It's harvest.
Just got some grapes.
and pouring some Bodkin first sparkling Sauv Blanc. Hey, welcome, Chris Christensen.
Wait, and how do we know this?
Journeyman,
How do we know it was
cellarman.
the first sparkling Sauvignon Blanc, John?
Because I read it in the press release, and I'm a honest guy. I expect other folks are honest too.
All right.
So if he says first, yeah, I'm going with it.
Just
Welcome, Chris.
what's the line? As honest as a Denver man can be, as honest as a Cedar Rapids man can be.
Well,
Cedar Rapidian is the technical
Cedar
term.
Rapidian.
Cedar Rapidian.
I have never heard that.
No.
Well, and it's a really cool little town that had these beautiful trees that arched over all of the major avenues in and out of town.
Were they cedar trees?
No, they were actually Dutch elm. And
Dutch elm.
it was
And then
taken
they-
out by the disease.
By Dutch elm disease.
And then the rest of the trees that they replanted got taken out by what's called a derecho, inline winds of like 150 miles an hour or something crazy. But it's a nice little town. Great place to be from. I'll just say that.
Delicioso.
Absolutely.
That's really good.
So welcome again.
No, great to be here. Excited to be here. Like I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, first-time guest here. So
Yeah.
To clear up the elephant in the room, have you noticed that there's a really famous surfboard shaper named Chris Christensen that's really destroying your SEO?
honestly, that's news to me. I knew about the guy who did dog grooming products, like dog shampoo, dog brushes, the Chris Christensen system for dog grooming.
No, that didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, that's not you?
That's not me.
All my background.
Call your wife and tell her to leave curry at home.
Well, I found that out because at one point in time I actually was doing dog shows.
Okay.
I had a show dog, and I showed
kind?
that dog.
What kind of dog?
A Greater Swiss Mountain Dog.
Oh wow, that's a cool dog.
It's 130 pounds of love and kisses.
Yeah.
Political neutrality.
Sam,
three colors.
what is
really
curry?
quite glorious.
What is
Pretty
curry?
good.
Yeah.
Kept precision time.
What does curry weigh?
80 pounds of adorable, troubled, Labrador, mischievous, hungry Labrador. Golden Lab.
Curry likes to go out and take samples in the vineyard by eating all of the grapes off the ground.
If he's not eating them, we're not picking them. That's the rule. If he's not eating them,
This comes down to what
If
Phil
curry don't
says.
trust, I ain't gonna pick it.
if they're not sweet enough for my dog to eat them off the vine, they're not ready to be picked.
Will he actually ignore them if they aren't? And once he tastes them?
Mostly, to James is right. Mostly being that he's a scroungy garbage dog, dumpster diving fucking Labrador. Mostly he'll eat the ones that have been on the ground for a couple days. Maybe they started a little fermentation.
But they need a little funk.
But if I
for dog.
point out the grapes on the vine, and all the animal rights activists are going to call in and email in and say that you're not supposed to feed grapes to dogs, but the size dog is, I need to feed him like a macro bin.
They're too busy lying about Measure J.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
If I point the grapes out to him, like in the fruit zone on the vine, he'll sniff at them, and then if he wants to eat them, he'll nibble at them, like off the, like a turkey or a coyote or a fox.
Good boy.
And if he eats them, they're ready.
It's like 20,000 years of Canis domesticus,
Yeah.
doing his thing, man.
Right. Who needs a refractometer?
Right.
There's always that way with picking, when you say when the birds come, they're getting ripe.
Oh,
You gotta
totally.
roll the bird netting out. You're like,
Yeah. Birds don't eat fruit that's not sweet. No, they're. I mean, they said there's 20,000 years of dogs. We're talking about millions of years of like biology, and if it's sweet, they're gonna eat it. If it's not ready, they're gonna go find the Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Carneros. That is
Absolutely.
Well, how are you doing on harvest? And you were in the issue that we've been talking about.
right. That is
Sonoma Magazine. Right.
We're gathered here today to talk about Sonoma Magazine.
Sure.
Yeah, so we made a little side hustle here with Sonoma Mag. I got to photograph some winemakers and develop it in their wine. The first one that I did was Chris, also my favorite one out of the group. Just kidding, Megan. Just kidding.
He says that to all the portraitists.
But he sabered some champagne for me. Some Bodkin sparkling for me. It was super fun. I did not break my camera. It did get sticky, and it was totally worth it. And I realized in talking to him that this guy is just like a living jocular soundbite, and he'd be perfect for the pod. And had actually reached out to Sam already prior to making this deal with
Did I respond?
Yeah. You were like, we're going to do it. And I told you we're going to do it. And then I think, we have ADHD. So fast forward and here we are.
You want to go ride bikes?
Huh?
There's a squirrel.
I'm not joking. I completely just forgot what I was saying.
Sonoma Magazine. That's what the pictures
I'm
in his wine.
holding a copy.
So,
what are we drinking, Chris?
This is the most recent bottling of the Cuvée Agincourt Bubbly Sauvignon Blanc. It's kind of like my flagship wine. I think this is, what is that? America's 11th sparkling Sauvignon Blanc. I made the previous 10 in preceding vintages. But yeah, that is my claim to fame, being producer of America's first sparkling Sauvignon Blanc. How do I know it's the first? Well, if anyone's found one, like by all means send it to me and I'll modify my claim. But you know another one, name them. That predates 2012. So how
did you end up focusing on that?
I love Sauvignon Blanc. I love bubbles. If that makes me any less of a man, then so be it. I'm into what I'm into. I have pretty thick skin. I grew up biracial in Iowa in the 80s. So, what's someone going to tell me about me at this stage in my life? But yeah, no, I loved it. And I was like, I really got into like Von Breuel, this is years ago. In the mid-aughts, back in my day, like alternative sparkling wine bases, like Riesling in that case, which I thought was absolutely delicious, like expanded my horizons. Like, wow, sparkling wine is so much more than just Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Corbel made also had a sparkling Riesling, thought was quite good. They had a sparkling red back in those days too, in the early thousands. Super into that, at the time. Sparkling red now is hits different these days.
Yeah.
But I kind of got into these alternative bases and was like, man, I really love Sauvignon Blanc. I love bubbles. Like, why can't I find one? And go around the bottle barn, kind of keep an eye out for one. Couldn't find one. I didn't actually find one until I was in Australia and New Zealand. I went there and worked harvest in 2011. I actually worked there with at BK Wines with Blair Guthrie, who's been another panelist here, but we worked together.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod.
Ding.
I'll ding Blair.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Blair's doing well.
Is that Desire Wine?
No. Blair Guthrie is Guthrie Family Wines.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Stewart Cellars. I believe they're picking. They're picking Rossi Grenache this week. The Monticello. I always say it wrong. Bart's not here to correct me. Vineyard up on Nuns Canyon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how does a guy from admittedly middle America find himself making sparkling anything out here in California?
Oh, man.
That's a great question. That's what I was going to ask too. Cedar Rapids to sparkling Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, man. So I grew up, I was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm a fourth generation Cedar Rapidian. A third generation graduate of Washington High School. Go Warriors.
Hey there.
Was that your high school too, John?
Yeah.
John went to
I was 1969. He was 20 years later.
Yeah, that was
30 years.
30 years later, yeah. Sorry.
He graduated 3 years before my mom's did. So.
Oh, hey, I'm the old guy. Don't worry about it.
Wait,
I'm happy being a boomer.
Never mind.
No.
Not doing it. Go ahead.
But yeah, no, like it was. John can attest that Cedar Rapids is just this hotbed of food and wine culture. I think you were long gone by the time we got that Red Lobster in '88.
Wow.
Yeah,
English
and in
triumphs.
I think 94, 95, we got the Applebee's next door.
Oh, that's awesome. Eating
next
good in
door
the
to Olive
neighborhood,
Garden,
man.
out there on Collins Road.
You know, it's funny because I only knew the southeast side, the corner, you know, because that's the way CR is laid out in 4 quadrants. And, you know, you basically don't go. I was semi-immobile because most of my time was without automobiles, but, you know, we did have Hondas and we did have bikes and everything growing up. And, you know, it's just interesting. I didn't know Collins Road. I didn't know out to LaSalle High School that you said Regis went with. You know, it's just an interesting place to grow up, but I didn't see any impact of good food or wine when I went back there, and I really don't hear people talk much about anything but smash burgers and beer at the bar.
Yeah,
So-
just the smells.
Fine.
People talking about the smells. Dude.
Oh, it's terrible.
What are they doing in Cedar Rapids?
They
raising
process meats, they process sorghum, they process soybeans, it was the world's largest cereal plant with Quaker Oats.
Wow.
Where they did the original puffed rice shot from guns. I mean, this is so 1950s TV. It's shot from guns. Boom. And we thought that was so cool as kids. And my dad's really best friend was director of research and development at Quaker. And he brought over a cereal one day in little boxes labeled A, B, and C. And we tried it. And it was the early run of Captain Crunch.
Had some this morning.
And we ended up going always to C. You know, he'd say, well, which one did you like? C. And then another batch, C. And a final batch, C. What were we choosing? The most sugar
high
possible.
fructose corn
High
syrup.
fructose.
So
They made it right down the road at the ADM plant out high by 130.
that's right. And just truck it in, maybe get a pipeline.
back
It's the
around.
local food. It's the local foodscape. You know.
With a background, you know, a cultural background in cereal development.
Thank you.
How did you find yourself fermenting grapes?
No, so my whole family's in education. We weren't even anything cool. We're like, oh yeah, I grew up on a farm or anything like that. There isn't even that kind of agricultural tie-in. Not all teachers, and so there was always a premium put on education in my family. And they're like, hey, you know what? You don't have to, be in Cedar Rapids your whole life. That was something that one of my mom's great regrets in life was that she never went and left Cedar Rapids. She doesn't want to do that. She wanted to be like go and work at the zoo in San Diego. Do something fun, do something cool. Instead of just being a teacher in Cedar Rapids, like as her father was, and a number of people in my family. So she's like, get a good education. You can go to college wherever you want. Pick your choose. You can feel free to pull the 13. Cool. Let's open the 13. I haven't had that one in a minute.
So what we had was the 23, and this is the 13, or is it, okay?
Is now we're on 10 years back in time. To get into the 2013 here.
Well, thank God it says on the bottle, contents under pressure, do not shake, use care when opening, serve chilled. Do they make you put that on there?
That's my personal legalese.
Wash your ass.
If it's good enough, if Corbell's going to put it on there, I'm gonna do the same thing. You know,
Smart. CYA.
Smarter, not harder. But yeah, so I ended up having an opportunity. There was something that's really encouraged was going to school, doing well in school. So I worked really hard at school. No lie on that. I was all-state chemistry back in 1998, and ended up having the opportunity to go to Stanford. So I took that.
Nice. I would too.
Yeah, I was like, heard of it? Solid. Yeah. Where can I get a good education, not get snowed on? Was my thought on it. And I was like, oh, it's in California. It's all bikinis and palm trees. And, despite the fact that I was the first black valedictorian in school history.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Go
Right?
ahead.
That.
There was not a California geography portion of it. So I thought NorCal and SoCal were the same thing. Wrong.
I still think that.
Wrong. Thought this was going to be beaches, palm trees.
Shut up.
Bikinis, Ferraris. No. NorCal hit different when I got here to go to school.
Well, you have the Ferraris too.
There were.
You can go to the.
It was like came out like 99, which was like at the kind of the height of the first .com wave. So
Just go to the racetrack. Ferraris racing there all the time.
Lake Sonoma.
Hey, you go to
Sonoma
El
Racing.
Camino Real in downtown Stanford, and there's Ferraris racing.
There were
Yeah.
racing 5 miles an hour in traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
C11s. Yeah, I mean, definitely see those like during like when the business school would have their alumni weekend, they'd pull up like skirt. guys hopping out of $100,000 Porsches and all that. And that was like 1999 money.
I was going to say $100,000 Porsche.
This is 99 money.
Pre-bubble.
Pre-bubble money. But yeah, so I came out to California and got involved in that. I ended up walking on to the rowing team and rowed crew there for 4 years. That was my thing. I originally started out trying to do engineering, but engineering was really hard. There are people there who are really smart, and I wasn't one of those people. Some people are just intellectually, cognitively built different than I am, and I had to come to accept that.
Work harder, not smarter.
Yep. So all of a sudden, I started out in petroleum engineering. My uncle was an engineer, and that was like the coolest job you could possibly have. That was like how you made it, was being an engineer in my family. Wasn't for me, but I love the science aspect of it. I just wasn't good enough at it for that to be a major for me. So I ended up graduating with a degree in what would now be considered data sciences, an offshoot of communication. So media process and effects, like how to, watching television, writing survey questionnaires, and trying to understand media usage, and then running statistical analysis. I thought something I wanted to do, like go work for Gallup Polls is interesting. Like I always loved data and numbers and had a scientific enough component for it, but it wasn't also so demanding. It still allowed time for me to have a social life and row, which is pretty cool.
Where does the Stanford rowing team? Are they on the bay? Where are you rowing?
Yeah, we're out of the Port of Redwood City.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. The Stanford boathouse there that they have out there now, and the Gallo rowing bay.
The Gallo rowing
that
bay.
comes in. Yeah, the relationship between Ernest Gallo III and the Stanford University crew team does come up factor into this story.
Okay,
I will
All
say.
right.
Is he an alumnus?
Yeah, he was class of
okay.
97. He was like 6 years before me. He's class of 97.
That tells you how New England I am. When you said the gallows, I immediately went to like
Hanging.
You're
hanging
like, you went to
witches.
Salem 1600.
Yeah, well, I was born in Salem, but also you think like Harvard rowing. I'm like, they probably burn witches near there. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, no. So, I graduated. So after I graduated, my mom was like, I'm done living in Iowa. I'm done getting snowed on myself. So she moved out to Sonoma County and kind of started a second career for herself outside of teaching. And so when I was coming home for Christmas, I was like, I don't know anybody here. What am I going to do in this town? So I started going wine tasting. And I was like, well, why? Like I said, growing up in a non-drinking household, we didn't drink in my household. We were devoutly Presbyterian. My grandmother was, and oh no, we're not those who do that. I think my aunt got shunned for bringing a bottle of champagne that she picked up at her trip to actual Champagne in like 1986. And was like shunned. Grandma was not happy over when Aunt Karen pulled that one out. So that was my family's relationship with alcohol for sure. And so I started going wine tasting. Like, what is this? Why do people come from all over the world to see wine? What's big about Sonoma County? This is like a big deal. Like, what up with that though?
And this is what 2000.
2011? I'm sorry, 2001.
Okay.
2001.
Do you remember any of the places you went?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like one of the first places I went was Valley of the Moon out here. Valley of the Moon Winery there. I think I still have a bottle from like the 96 sparkling they had there.
Okay.
Cool wine experiences. Armida.
That's now Abbott's Passage for.
Oh,
For
okay.
the
lay
uninitiated
people.
James.
I was there this
You got to keep up
morning.
my consolidation now. Armida was a winery that I really absolutely loved, and so was Christopher Creek at the time. Back when it was owned by Pam and Fred Wasserman,
Right.
And Chris Rusi was the winemaker out there at the time. And it's a place I really fell in love with the Viognier that he made. That was kind of foundational in my love of wine. Was that Christopher Creek 2001 Viognier? Just lethal. Katie's Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. I was like, when I get into the industry, I got to find the man who made this wine and befriend this guy because he knows what he's doing. And to this day, for over 20 some years now, Rusi and I, Chris Rusi, who's now out at Comstock, and I've been friends.
Cool.
But yeah, no, it's something I wanted to get into, wanted to do. Maybe I'll do something fun. I made my early 20s are too short to be spent in an office with a Windsor tied noose around my neck, laughing at Dilbert, being turned in ashen shade of grand or phosphorescent lighting, staring down a cathode ray tube monitor because I'm that old.
You're really selling it.
Yeah, I know, right? And so I was well, maybe I'll get a good job there. It turns out I meet Ernest Gallo III at an alumni event, pulled up for the dedication of the new boathouse. I was like, hey, I'm really wanting to wine. What do you guys have going on? He goes, well, I actually talked to a guy, Scott Cozell is coming, and he's going to put on a talk here for majors. You should go show up. It's probably next Thursday. Inquire with the engineering department about it. I said, okay, I'll pull up then. And so I end up turning up to the meeting. I meet Scott afterwards, who's, at the time he was doing Bordeaux winemaking at Gallo, Sonoma. And also running the lab. And I was like, hey, look, I'm not an engineering student. Maybe I'm not right for the management training program. Do you have anything else? He goes, well, I need to hire for a lab intern. Send your resume into here's my card.
Data.
Send the resume into secretary.
Right.
Get it going, start out here. And,
Good enough with the spreadsheet to work in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Get you to the lab. And I was like, all right, I have this background in chemistry. I was all-state in chemistry back in 98. All right. And that was my first job at Gallo Sonoma. It was kind of what got me going up here. It was 2000.
Where is Gallo Sonoma based?
The Fry Ranch. It's right at the Fry Ranch property. So you know where the store is?
No.
You go out Dry Creek, and you're about halfway. You're going to come to there's like a stop sign out there. There's a 3-way stop, and it teens off, and there's Dry Creek Vineyards, kind of on one side. Past Lacqua's down and make a left. You keep going straight, you're going to end up at Lake Sonoma.
Okay.
Eventually. Teldeschi's up the hill, so it's right by the Teldeschi Vineyard. I know another friend of the podcast. There's a Teldeschi tie-in coming later.
Okay.
But yeah, right there, like right where the Dry Creek store is, you make a right at the driveway before it, and you go all the way back. And if you look carefully from the road, you can actually see like this mound of earth and then the top of tanks above it. So that's the barrel room that holds like 60,000 barrels, and then
I was wondering how much shit do they have going on there?
At the time I was there, it was 1.3 million cases, and I think it's probably about double that now.
Wow.
It's a lot of wine.
That's a lot of wine. Like there's
Lot
nothing.
of
I've never seen anything like that. I mean, they're crushing. I think on the biggest day of reds and whites combined, they were doing 2,500 tons a day.
There's a tank at that facility that the urban legend is basically you could drink a bottle of wine every day for the rest of your life out of that tank, and the tank would go down like an inch.
Right. Oh yeah. No, they have a set of 100 and 200,000 gallon tanks out there.
Right.
But the one that's kind of crazy is the tank they have out at Livingston and out the Livingston facility that holds 1 million gallons.
Wild.
One of my professors, Giovanni Channing Robertson, he was Ernest Gallo III's advisor when he was an undergrad there, and he helped do the plant design for that facility in Livingston, including the rotator, the rotation mixing system for the 1 million gallon.
For the 1 million gallon tank. You could entire city could live inside 1 million gallon tank.
Absolutely. Like I have no comprehension of what that actually would look like. 1 million gallons is one of those numbers that's so big it's like contemplating infinity,
Yeah, it's like a reservoir.
Totally.
Insane.
Yeah, it's like no comprehension of that. But yeah, no, that was the first harvest out there. That I worked 2003, and then after that, I worked at Michel Schlumberger, Meeker, Mortson, Armida, and I ended up working Armida like 3 times in my career. About that, Mortson. Then I got a job working at Wachovia Bank for 1 year, 1 month, and 19 days. I said I'm going to use my degree. And I worked on a project for them to better predict automotive delinquency during the Great Recession.
Wait.
So it's come with a mathematical model to repossess people's cars in 2007 and 2008.
Okay.
Little work for the good guys. All right.
Yeah, right. Bet 1 year, 1 month, and 19 days of that. And I said, man, I need to get back. I need to get back to wine. Who's counting it down, dude? Like I had that tattoo, tears removed.
Yeah, totally.
Elbow off my elbow.
Well, Sam, you did your time in reality. You had a
I did
button-down shirt.
I wore a tie and shilled for the mining association and clean coal. Yeah, a little longer than 1 month, 1 year, 1 month and 9 days, but
Clean coal.
Another decade and 19 months, and your soul will be clear of that.
Yeah, maybe.
Provided you're really good and don't drive.
or fly, or do anything else. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. After my time at Wachovia Dealer Services, which is a branch of the Omov Lanarm Wachovia, I came back. It's like I want to get involved in wine again. Like I know how good I had it, and then to really get serious about the process. Before I was kind of dragging hoses, doing lab work and that stuff. But I really want to take on the winemaking part of it. Financially, it wasn't something I could do was to afford to go back to school. So, using the Healdsburg, I was living in Healdsburg at the time. This kind of whole time from 2003 to 13, I was living in Healdsburg. So I just go down to the Healdsburg Wine Library, check out books, read the materials.
There's a wine library?
Yeah. It's one of the great kept secrets. But
Separate from the normal library?
It's like it has like an alcove covey in the back, and it's like wine. You can all kinds of things there. They have really cool, like everything from biographies of the early winemakers of Sonoma County, interviews, personal kind of documents. There's like that patent elements from Am Ferrari's destemmer is on there. The original like cylindrical destemmer.
Yeah.
From Healdsburg Machining Company, the Southsell family, the Demosthenes, Am Ferrari and them. Yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff out there. These kind of one-of-one documents in addition to like reference books and materials for reading about wine. That I got into and started reading them as I can't afford back to school, but I can buy the books, I can read the books.
Yeah.
And I've had enough connections in the business to ask questions. So much for me, it's like there's an education component about wine and you can study it, but there's so much of an apprenticeship. Like you're learning as you're going. It's a trade. Yeah. You know, you apply that craft, you learn the craft from those who you find and think do it well. You take what you've learned, then you kind of build upon that. So
tweak it to your own.
Yeah, you make it kind of spin it to your own way, which is super cool. So I've really enjoyed, about it. That kind of tradesman philosophy has been a big one for me. I don't consider myself to be an artist, like a tradesman. I take raw materials, I produce finished goods. The finished good is a summation of every single decision I made, both good and bad, all the way along the process. So growing up, I did a lot of woodworking. My grandfather was a shop teacher and a professor of machining and industrial engineering. He had all the fun tools in Grandma's basement, and so I grew up kind of building with wood, building furniture and boxes and stuff, and always enjoyed that. But I wasn't good enough. I wasn't patient enough as a dovetail joiner to really make it in furniture. I wasn't good enough at science enough to really have a career as an engineer, but I'm really lucky to have kind of stumbled into something that's kind of the intersection of those two things. That I've been able to have some modicum of success at, or at least enough success to get me here on the Winemakers podcast.
Well,
I'm just saying you're in the upper echelons.
Right.
Just enough success in the wine business to ruin the rest of your life.
Yeah, you kind of get that in there.
Well, if making your first wine, what's the thought process of, hey, I know how to make this product, but was selling it even a part of the original plan? Like, did you say, hey, I know people that work at these restaurants, or I can start a little wine club, or...
Yeah, no, that's a little bit of both. There's a little bit of blind luck that fell into that, or I fell into with that. But yeah, starting out like first vintage, I'd worked 8 years for other people before I decided to do this. I actually was trying to apply for jobs and get a job as a winemaker, but as someone who didn't have a degree. Around 2010, planning on, kind of coming out of a great economic recession, and there were still a bunch of folks graduating from Davis, and a lot of the older winemakers were kind of retiring, moving on. My applications and all that were kind of.
Bye.
I don't know. I was really kind of getting the opportunities to have, and I was like, well, I need to be able to prove myself in ways other than what's on my resume. So I thought I'd kind of start a brand of my own to kind of put my money where my mouth is, to make some wines and kind of be able to build my career that way. As somebody who doesn't actually have a degree in winemaking. So starting out, I just wanted to make really interesting white wines. I felt that was a spot in the market, and I started Bodkin Wines in 2011 after 8 harvests of working for other people. I really at that point in time, I felt that I had not only gained the technical competence to do it, but also really had learned the patience involved in making wine, because so much of it's for that, and that's been one of my concerns, being as ADD as I am, was being able to not over mess with things.
Yeah.
Like leave it alone, like make your decisions and leave it alone and wait and see. And that was really hard for me. So that was one of the big things for me, was learning the patience, and the control to have to really feel like I'd really have a really good shot at doing this and doing it well, because, I still had to scrounge together about $13,000 to start this whole project with.
And where did that money go? So it's $13,000. How is that budgeted?
That was budgeted originally for fruit. Custom crush
just
fees.
The fruit. And custom
crush.
Okay.
Crush.
Right.
Fruit, custom crush fees,
glass,
bottling, glass, corks,
labels.
I'm a numbers guy, so I really dove into that from the beginning.
Like 3 or 4 tons?
Huh? Yeah, the first one was 1.5 tons.
Okay.
Of that first year. So I wouldn't want to blow all my capital the first year, knowing how long it was going to take me to sell it, which was a big question.
Right.
Yeah. But it's 77 cases of wine my first year, which was like 2011, and I did like a faux Dagenau style of Sauv Blanc, some madcap shit like that. It was like 2/3. It was like 2/3 direct to press, 1/3 skin ferment. Blended them together. Skin fermenting was kind of the rage, I'd met up with in 2010. I'd met up with Hardy Wallace, who's working for Kevin Kelly at MPA Salinia, friend of the podcast. I'm just name dropping today. I'm just dropping names and reaching out here. Give him respect where it's due. And so I got put up on like skin fermented Sauvignon Blanc there. No ideas original. It's like, Kevin was super into that, and I was like, wow, that's like a really cool thing as a blending component. Maybe I don't want to go full that way, but as a blending component, that's really cool. You end up with a lot of texture and aromatics to it. So that was this really unique Sauvignon Blanc I made, first vintage out. The market's reaction to it, broadly speaking, of the handful of restaurants I went to, was like, that's cool, that's weird, this isn't very Sauv Blanc. But I was like, yeah, but what a great deal. This is like a faux cool wine of the Loire. And it's $16 a bottle. And they're like, yeah, okay, good on you, kid. It doesn't taste like Sauv Blanc.
Right.
And this is the time where there wasn't an interesting white section. There wasn't an orange wine section. Like this terminology didn't exist.
And it required conversation. People that are selling that
It's
wine, it's conversation and some,
And I bottled it late. I think I got it bottled in like June, and kind of going to harvest the next year. And I was like, well, I've been having struggle selling this. I had to hand label all 77 cases myself because my labels weren't done on time.
Nice.
And so I was like, okay, well, if people, the consensus I heard from this,
Labels done on time.
There's a shared culpability right now. I'm acknowledging my role in this.
yeah, man. So labels are done. So I was like, okay, so I'm probably having to sell this concurrently with the next vintage. And I was like, well, if people are you not entertained, it was kind of that moment from Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, you're not entertained by this. Then you want something different? I'll give you something fucking new and different. Pardon my language. Bleep that out, maybe.
Definitely not.
Okay, I'm going to lean into it then.
Should have heard me talk on the last one.
I did. You should feel safe. So what I ended up doing was like, okay, I'll do sparkling Sauvignon Blanc. Like I'd been having this plan to do sparkling Sauvignon Blanc for over a year at this point in time in 2012. So I came across my first ones when I was in Australia and New Zealand. The year before, kind of traveling, working in Australia, and then traveling through New Zealand. I've had about a half dozen of them. I'm like, well, these are things that worked about it. These are the things that weren't so great about these ones that I've had. They were everything from Champenois, Charmant, Force Carb. And just kind of started to build a plan for that. And so as it turned out in 2011, that year when I made my first wine, it was a really low bricks year. We had the rains. We were fighting rains. It got rained on October 2nd.
Like 3 inches.
Yeah, it was like a big fuck off rain, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up having to pick my 2011 Sauv Blanc before the rain. I was like, hey, if you have an opportunity to pick before the rain or after, always pick before. Always, but you're going to be at the same bricks at the end of it. You're just going to have more mold. I ain't got no time for that. Like, not going to do it. Especially for trying to skin firm stuff. I don't want to be fighting botrytis and all that other stuff. So I said, well, pick it before. So it ended up coming in about 21 bricks. But I was happy with the fruit quality. I was happy with the flavor profile of it. Because, the always fear when I'm talking to my friends, I'm do sparkling Sauvignon Blanc. It's like, well, you're going to end up
Where
with
was the fruit coming from?
Lake County.
Okay.
Lake County. And, you're going to end up with cat pee backed with 9 grams per liter of carbon dioxide. Nobody wants that. Like that kind of low bricks, underripe, really high capsicum element of Sauvignon Blanc. But my belief was not all vineyards throw that, even at lower bricks. Like it's not always an element of Sauv Blanc from my experience. So to find a vineyard that kind of had those qualities to it, or the lack of those qualities, the absence of them,
Right.
was essential. And I realized that the year before this vineyard I was buying from, didn't have that. And I'm like, I had this, wow, this fruit's 22 bricks. It's not green. I bet I can do this. I bet I can do this at like 18, 20 and still be rewarded for it. And that kind of set the edge of it. So I found the vineyard site and then spent a lot of time reading how to make sparkling wine. I'd never made base wine before. I mean, no one I knew it even made, sparkling Sauv Blanc base before. So it's like I'm kind of uncharted territory, but, I have time. I had time. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married.
Right.
I had nothing else better to do than I was working at Medlock Ames Winery at the time. Great place. Fantastic Sauv Blanc out there. That's really where my love of Sauv Blanc came from.
Well, and it kind
Plug
of
for
like
MFV.
to someone who is like a lay person, it makes sense to use Sauvignon Blanc as a base because usually you're picking hella early, right? Pinot and Chard because you want raging acidity.
Absolutely.
So Sauvignon Blanc kind of has that already, right?
Formed with the secondary fermentation.
10-2.
Right. It kind of makes sense.
10-5.
Yeah. So how come no one else had ever kind of ventured into
They
that?
listened to their friends when they said it was a bad idea. I didn't listen. You can't tell me nothing. Tell me shit, dude.
I knew he had something.
You're like, oh, dude, hold my, that's not going to work. Yeah, whatever, man. Hold my Sancerre. Watch this, buddy.
And you're not a patient person, so you don't want to do traditional method, right?
Well, that was part of it. It was like, I've thought from the ones that I'd had that were done Champenois, they lost something. They lost some of the high tones of it. Like over time, once you get 9 months out before you can start disgorging and reeling the wine out, you lose it yeasty. Yeah. It kind of tamps down some of that really bright Feijoa quality, which I love.
Wait, really tight what?
Feijoas, pineapple guavas.
For what?
Y'all never effed with Feijoas?
Pineapple guava.
I've never heard that word before.
There's actually
there's a you don't really find them at the store, but you can pick them up. They're used a lot as hedgerows.
There's right out in front of this in front of
delicious.
in front of the Las Jarras office.
Yeah.
Wait, how do you spell it?
Are they growing right now?
Pineapple guava. I wouldn't spell that. Spell it.
Oh, is it
That sounds like a sex act.
FEIJOA? Feijoa?
Are they
Feijoa.
growing right now?
I'm also dyslexic, so good luck. Spelling's not
Okay,
my forte.
okay. Yeah, I just never heard that.
Oh yeah, no, pineapple guavas. They're delicious.
P-I-L-L-A?
Okay.
Yeah, Feijoa. You find mostly indigenous like South America.
Like that's a Google search that can go
Yeah.
south fast, but
Yeah, Feijoas. Feijoas, pineapple guavas. It's
FEIJOA. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tastes like a pineapple had a baby with a mint. It's like a little minty pineapple.
I'm excited.
Delicious.
I want one.
Yeah,
Let me see.
I love it so much.
Oh,
I
yeah.
planted 2 trees at my house. Like,
And they grow okay here?
yeah, they grow solid. They grow great.
When are they ripe?
October, November.
And when are you going to make wine from these?
Never. Maybe never. February 1990. Never. I'm going to.
February.
I mean, I know. I feel if I made wine out of Feijoas, I'd lose my love of Feijoas. It just tastes like work then.
So, Chris,
Insane.
What do I do? 10-year-old,
right here.
13. That's 11 years old.
Yeah.
Like, this wine blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
It is so good. I'm
Thank
for a
you.
glass. So.
No, highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars.
Chris, tell me about your tagline. We few, we happy
Oh
few.
boy, man, we'll get into that. I'm gonna tie the first sparkling Sauvignon Blanc story up first, and we'll do that deep dive. But yeah, no. So in 2012, I said I'm gonna do the sparkling Sauvignon Blanc, and then I'm gonna make a very traditional Sauvignon Blanc. And I was offered like a half ton of Muscat from the same growers as Sauv Blanc, Canelli, and so I made a little bit of Muscat Canelli too. He's like, oh, it's the first leaf, just take it and have fun with it. I said, all right, I'll do that. And so I ended up making. I had like a sparkling Sauv Blanc that year, which exceeded all expectations when in doubt. Always better be lucky than good. I'd love to say this was this great idea I had that was fantastic, and I knew from the beginning, but that's not the case at all. We couldn't be further from it. Like, this was the naivete of a 31-year-old dude. Yeah, I think I took an advance on 2 credit cards, rolled over to a third, and a 0% balance transfer to be able to get for the secondary fees. But history's written by the victors, so like I can act like it was genius. But man, that was crazy. It was nuts. It's insane. That is just unwell thinking.
Money was cheap. Money was cheaper then.
Money was cheaper then, and I was less healed than I am now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I went ahead and did it, and it turned out exceeded expectations. That year, and it turns out that a really good friend of mine was had worked for Hy-Vee grocery stores back in Iowa. My buddy Brian Roney. DJ Brian Lee. We worked at Hy-Vee together. He stuck with
Mount
with the
Vernon
company.
Road.
You're Mount Vernon Road. See,
Yeah.
we were at the 3 Deuce in the OAK, man. We were on 32nd in Oakland, Hy-Vee 5. Northeast side, man.
Hey, I was a hell of a
Northeast side.
bagger.
You worked there?
It was a Hy-Veer.
Hell, everybody
Hy-Vee,
works at
everyone did.
Hy-Vee,
It's like
man.
a
Are
rite
you
of
kidding?
passage.
Yeah, it is.
It's a rite of passage, Cedar Rapids. But yeah, no, that was so he connected me with a distributor. And I started selling my first wine wholesale to Iowa, and that kind of started things.
Wow.
Because that was always part of it was for the brand. You asked about sales, and it was always from the beginning of it was the value proposition for this to be a 3-tier brand. We're going to offer like premium wines out to the 3-tier market, and we were kind of in the last window of wineries could actually do that before a lot of the consolidations and the current woes that we see. So that was always the sales plan was to be a 3-tier brand.
Huh.
We few.
We happy few.
We
band of
happy few.
brothers. For he sheds his both me shall be my brother. Be ne'er or vile, of moral gentlest condition, and gentlemen now a home abed in England shall find themselves accursed and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day. Henry V.
There you go. Nice. I'm glad we can do some Shakespeare on the show. Every once in a while, a little Shakespeare.
Yeah, we got into that, man. No, that's a big shout out to Jason Alberty, my AP English teacher at Washington High School, back at Warsh, as it was pronounced by some members of my family. Washington. Oh, you're gonna go to Washington? I went to Washington back when it was down by Green Square Park. It's my grandmother. That's why the brand's not called Christensen, because she did not approve of the family name being used in alcoholic products.
So how'd you get Bodkin?
Bodkin? I love shooting archery. I started shooting when I was 9 years old. Like after the 8 or 9, when the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves movie dropped. This is like 89.
Oh, hell yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself here, but yeah.
Yeah, it's
Kevin Costner?
Times I was like,
you're like, hell yeah, brother. Everything I
go,
do,
bro.
Yeah.
do it for you. Brian Adams.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet Canadian vocals, just tinkling your ears
Summer
and telling your heart
69
stories.
is every summer.
Brian Adams, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got really into that. Started shooting archery. At that phase of my life, and then kind of sparked my love of medieval history. And yeah, my love of Shakespeare then kind of came, and I got turned on to play Henry V in Mr. Alberty's class. I was like, this couldn't be real. Like, this army of the 5,000 English didn't beat back 30,000 French in this Royal Fellowship of Death that was fought upon the 25th of October, 1415. So I go and pull out my World Book encyclopedias because that's what we had. And I'm like, holy shit, this is real. Like, this is an actual thing. So it kind of captivated my mind. And it just kind of stuck with me. And so, what other story would I like to tell aside from the one of, this is Christensen, it's my family name, since that was off the table out of respect for my grandmother, who I will say, I think it was maybe the third and last glass of wine she had in her entire life. She passed away in 2015 at age 98. Was a glass of my 13 Muscat. Granny loved the Muscat.
Oh, hell yeah.
Granny loved the Canelli. So, but anyway,
shout out to Granny. I think there's definitely our first guest who ever didn't name their winery after their grandmother.
Chose not to.
Like, oh, grandma, we'll go for something else.
The opposite way. This isn't a family name. But yeah, no. So was it. So a Bodkin's type of medieval arrowhead, about the size around as your index finger. It was used with fantastic success by the peasant bowmen of England against an armed nobility of France in the 100 Years' War. Because, anytime you get to take a shot at the French in this business, you got to go for it. So I'm out here celebrating the triumph of technology over tradition. In those days, like the Battle of Agincourt, they're like, we're gonna march our armored knights. We're the wealthiest, best armored men of France. And we were just going to club down this rabble, this rabble of an English army that's made up of 5,000 peasant bowmen and 1,000 men-at-arms. And we're going to capture the king and his brother and the great lords.
With 3 eyes and a bow and arrow from 60 yards just started dropping them.
They're dropping bombs from 100, 150, 200, 300.
Right through the armor.
I mean, these are not standard war. I mean, this is war bows. So they'd have 120-pound draw weight, which is twice as what you'd really find with competition bows. You're watching archery at the Olympics. That's a 77 yards, 70 meters, 77 yards.
It's funny. So I remember learning about this in elementary school, where in New England they taught us about the Revolutionary War was very prevalent, and how really the Americans won because we, after the first couple of battles and realized it was stupid, we wouldn't just line up across a field, point and shoot at each other like a bunch of morons. We're like, what if we hid in the woods? That's crazy. But England was doing that way before, and then they just turned into France.
Yeah, they were eventually. It's the horseshoe phenomenon. You start on one end of the horseshoe and you end up at the same place. Goes around there. But that was it back in those days. So the armored knights and their horses. Horses aren't arrow proof. They were just the armored nobility of France was just getting decimated by these peasants. And it was just kind of a story that I always like to think about is someone who doesn't get much more peasant born than I am, son of 2 school teachers from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I'm in this business with people who have large amounts of wealth, or their families have been doing it. Don't no disrespect to people whose families have been doing this for a while.
Those people,
yeah, right,
bikinis,
yeah. And so I'm in this really competitive business, and there's the whole idea of that wine of so much was very dogmatic and very tradition related, and I wanted to do things differently. Whether it was skin fermentation of Sauvignon Blanc, making sparkling Sauvignon Blanc, and just doing kind of wines the way that I wanted to do them and would do them. It was so much of it relied on kind of technology and innovative thinking versus traditional ways of doing things.
Well, perfect.
I always kind of like that. So it was a
perfect transition to this. I really like this. This is a blend of
chill the red, buddy.
What's super cool is you put your harvest interns on the label.
Hunt it. Full on, man. I gotta give credit. I'm a lot of things. I'm not an ingrate. I gotta give credit where credit's due. So that year, Steve Keck, my buddy Steve from Kansas. Used to work. He works for my former distributor in that state. Got to be a good friend of mine. He's a musician. Has his own band called Betty the Astronaut. Look him up on Spotify. It's really nice, soft college rock. Good
college
stuff.
rock.
Yeah. It's kind of
alt rock.
It's a little bit like John Mayer-ish, kind of like that, dude.
Channel
John Mayer
28 is serious.
Yeah, right. Great. It's really
Coffee
easy
house.
booze and stuff, man. And then my dad came out and helped me that year too. Pops pulled up in 2011, or pardon me, 2021. So Greg Outlaw gets a shout out there.
How old are your kids?
6 and 8.
Are they into wine? Are they into helping? Into anything?
Nope.
No.
They're into Roblox and Nintendo Switch.
That's cool.
Football.
Oh, it's got an Iowa CRV.
I do, yeah, absolutely.
I guess it's not it's an IRV.
Yeah.
So is this not sold here in California?
No, it's sold in California. I just put that on all my labels because I'm just so proud to be from Iowa. It was funny, dude. Yeah, if you look at some of the old brand, you can actually see the three emblems of the Tree of Five Seasons, like on there.
From Iowa?
Is it in there?
Kansas.
No, but I thought he was originally from Iowa. No?
Cool.
But yeah, no, I'm glad you like the 2020. This is a Chilwell Red. This is one of the 2 Chilwell Reds I did that year.
Yeah.
Kind of in vogue. I really like low tannin wines. I have a certain sensitivity to tannin. I prefer white wines. Lesser, more reserved reds. So pulling the kind of pulling back on some of the extraction for this, the 2021, the Hill and the Vale. So it's a combination of hillside vineyards and valley floor vineyards. That wine started out as a huge mistake. Like I screwed that thing up royally.
Not the first time we've heard that.
No. I messed that up bad. That was a.
Turns out great.
Yeah. No. So originally came in, like, I had this one lot come in about 20. It was like 287 grams per liter, glue-free on this lot is in, and I was like, okay, all right, we're gonna play the hand I'm dealt here. I don't really most of the wines I make about 13.5, TA of 7. I'm talking reds. Like that's the bandwidth of chemistry my reds live in. This wine's not made by numbers; it's made by flavors.
Yeah.
No. It's not the clothes we wear; it's how we wear them. So I usually hang pretty high acids on my wines. Personal preference. I'll have them in barrel for 2 years. They'll get to where they need to get going. Let the chemistry do the heavy lifting. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try and do a Turley style wine. I'm going to push myself as a winemaker to take on a style that I don't typically do. And so I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? Let's lean into this. Hey, Chris, you want to lysozyme this? Nah, dude. Like, let's let this be natural. Let's
Wait,
see
what
how
does
it
that
goes.
mean?
Adding an agent that would prevent gram positive bacteria. So it's like a really good way of checking back, like Oniacoccus, which is just like malactic bacteria, right, from wine, and it can also prevent a number of other spoilage bacteria too. So you don't have like spoilage from like lactobacillus or any of those other kind of like lactic acid spoilage bacteria. So I chose not to do that, like intentionally in a moment of like, hey, like let's see how natural I can do this and try and make a wine that has a potential alcohol of 16%. Yeah, that went out poorly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, every once you play with fire, you get burnt. And so I ended up with this wine that was like, I had like 2 grams of residual sugar in it. Like the VA of 0.93, but it's that real sweet and sour sauce kind, like you get from heterofermentive activity in Oniacoccus. Like it wasn't just high VA, it was like sour, hot, high VA, high alcohol, no acid behind it either.
Oh, I mean, VA threshold is at 1, right? But if it's the wrong kind,
it's the wrong kind. Like it's just
yeah.
sore thumb, right? 0.9 was just like this was too much. This was too much for me. So I looked at what DVAing would be like. It's 300 gallons. I said no. It's like shit. Now I got to do real winemaking. So how can I save this? Like
You haven't been doing real winemaking.
What do I have
in the
for
past.
blending?
All right.
So it turned out that I had like 300 gallons of sparkling base, of hard pressed sparkling base. And I'm like, all right, from this bad boy here, the 21 Hotspur. So it's Barbera and Zinfandel. And I said, okay, well, this is going to drop alcohol, drop VA, increase the TA. It's going to bring the acid back to it. I knock them together, do a trial blend, say, yeah, we're close. It needs something a little bit more. There's still this wheeze of VA, that sweet and sour, that high wheeze, that high tone wheeze. So what else do I got? And I said,
that sharpness of VA.
Yeah. I can put VA. I can put some Petite Syrah that I had into it. Wasn't super happy with the way that looked. Let's try Sauv Blanc. Sauv Blanc wasn't like super exciting either. I didn't think it really helped with that. And I said, well, I got one barrel of 21 Muscat left over. So it gave this really nice like high tone peach apricot nectarine. This aromatic lift, which was just like the kind of perfect framework to mask that little high tone wheeze of VA.
Totally.
So I just love the way that came together. It didn't really add any to the tannin profile. It just made the wine softer, brighter, more aromatic. So it was kind of like a real act of winemaking.
The Hell in the Vale.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's look at.
Was that a one time then, or are you now trying to make something like that every year?
I've made it. I made it for the first time in 14, but now it kind of went into obsolescence for a few vintages. Now it's back for 21. We got a pretty nice score for the enthusiast behind it. Whatever that's worth. People like to see that in the marketplace.
It's always worth something.
Yeah, it's worth something. I'm a big fan of the wine enthusiast. And I'm glad that Tanya Pitts was a big fan of that wine too, so that was pretty cool. 92 points for it was like a cool acknowledgement, kind of confirming what I felt already about the wine.
I guess he's come up a lot today. It's like the 5th time we've talked about wine enthusiasts today with different people.
Yeah.
It's on the app.
It is on the app. Shout out the new editor-in-chief. Yeah.
Shout out to
John Capone.
Yes.
New editor-in-chief.
For John.
All right.
And so, this is kind of an interesting crossover segue to go from this wine to this wine because they do have a little bit in common. Moving into the 2018 Lures High Rock. It's there's also the tie-in with our friends, the Teldeskis here. Here's the Teldeski tie-in. Johnny's on the Hill clone. From as I back this out here, one of the Zinfandel components, which is actually from the sparkling base here, was Zinfandel from the Lures High Rock Ranch out at the coast. It's like 20 minutes past the end of Rock Pile Road. If you go out to the end of Rock Pile, you go through the Rock Pile AVA, there's like a gate. It's gated off. It's known as the Paul B. Kelly Road. Paul B. Kelly Logging Company, the Kelly Road. So, yeah, this family owned the road and also had like 239 acres out in the absolute middle of nowhere between Healdsburg and Annapolis. And, I've been buying fruit for a number of years. I go way back with the family. I used to date the owner's daughter, like back in the mid-thousands. But it was all good terms kind of thing, and stayed close, and got to be good friends of them all, the Lures family, and was buying their Zinfandel from them. And in 2018, I was super excited I got the fruit for the first time in 2017. It's one of those kind of hillside vineyards that's going to have a tendency for high TA, high pH situations. And so I wasn't quite sure how to handle that in the winery, because most of the wines I make are very high TA, low pH. And so I went and did in 2017, I went and did the Kelly wheat analysis on it, and was like, how do I move how am I going to move this to make this a Bodkin style wine? And they're like, yes, you're going to need to add like 2.1 grams of tartaric. It's like, excuse me. And I was like, no, like this is what the computer is. Here's the Mextar. Here's the Kelly wheat to bring this wine to be like pH 367 to bring it to the south side of the isoelectric point of tartaric acid, right? I was like, okay, I got to move the needle. And I did it, but I thought that really hollowed out the fruit. I thought it greatly changed what that vineyard was going to give. So when it came back in 2018.
Like metallic taste of adding too much tartaric.
It was hard. It just became like a very hard wine. I didn't particularly care for that. So in 2018, I was like, I know what this is going to hand me. And I wanted to lean into it. Like, hey, Chris, you're going to do a pH 4 wine, because that's where this wants to be. Like, what does that look like? So, we're getting there harvesting it. And Johnny Teldeski was there. He did the hauling for it. But the clone that they planted out there was the original suitcase clone from Teldeski's vineyard, the Johnny's on the Hill, from Teldeski, because the wife, vineyard owner, her grandfather sponsored Teldeski's to come over from Italy. And they shared the cuttings with them, because they were the Ponzo family who had the ranch that's now where Aperture is. But yeah, that was it. So when they planted their vineyard in '97 up there, they got the original suitcase clone cuttings of Primitivo from the Teldeski's. Right.
I mean,
so it's old school Primitivo clone.
Right.
But in 2018, it was a great vineyard. The fruit came in really heavy, and I made the ever so not cool decision to flip a four-wheeler out there, and I broke my leg.
Ouch. Not supposed to do that.
No, I mean, it was. I mean, I'd been out there. I've been on ATVs so many times in that vineyard. Like, this was nothing. But I got a little cocky and got squirrely in some shale coming up, like at the last of the pick, and got squirrely in some shale going up maybe like a 20% grade, like super steep, and one of the wheels spun out and bailed off, and ended up pretty much nearly unscrewing my foot from my leg.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty gnarly to happen at the second to last pick of the year. But yeah, no, that was not fun. Nothing that forced surgeries couldn't fix.
So how's harvest looking for you this year?
It's good. So far, so good. Fruit's coming in. It's been pretty straightforward. I brought in Sauvignon Blanc so far from Mendocino. It's just one of the wines I brought in for the really exciting project I'm doing in conjunction with Jenny and Francois Selections. This is the kind of natural wine magnates.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, they're super, super cool folks. The importer based out of New York for the past several years. I've been working with them to do a domestic line of like natural wine, minimal interventionist wines here in California. So do a little bit of Sauv Blanc, which we plug over there. A little Sauv Blanc.
Oh, with the California label on it.
Yeah, a little California label on it.
That's kind of a cool label.
Yeah, the Where's Linus. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's the Where's Linus.
Yeah, the Where's Linus.
There you go. It's a whole separate line.
Also, maybe a little shout out to Santa Rosa in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever the Peanuts jingle is.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah. It was great to see you. I got to run. I got to go take pictures of Viognier being skinned.
Being skinned?
Yeah, we'll just leave that as mysterious.
No.
What are they in there? What are they in there with, like a paring knife? Like,
Yeah.
Basically, we picked our Viognier this morning from the vineyard that surrounds Landmark Winery up in Kenwood, Steel Plow Vineyard, and Iowa. There you go. It's the John Deere Vineyard.
Absolutely.
And now, thank God for the Stone Edge Farm interns. Shout out Alejandro and your team over there. Basically, they're going to hand to stem a bunch of, more like kind of like this. Because it's already been pressed.
Yeah.
Out of the press, they'll pull out the stems and fill 10, 12 5-gallon buckets full of skins that I'm going to freeze. And then when our Syrah comes in and maybe some other little surprises, I'll pull some of those out and put them into the fermenter. So, no juice, no spike in the sugar. We're going to pick super ripe anyway. We don't need sugar. But we want aromatics, texture, that sort of polish that the Viognier skins give. So
I think this might be the low-key segue into pulling the Where's Linus Red, because they did there's a little bit of Viognier blended into that, about 8%.
It's right here.
There
we go.
Right
right
segue.
here, huh?
Segue.
When the things we
Sam?
plan ahead of time work out, right?
No, absolutely.
I'm gonna go. It was great to see
James,
you.
I was gonna see.
I'm gonna hit you up. I want to buy some of that.
Dude, that can be arranged.
All right.
I got around to
Good
it.
to see it.
Got stacks on deck, bud.
James Joyner, photographer extraordinaire, leaving us for the afternoon.
To go.
Hey, well, it's
Take pictures.
we're tying it up. It's a good thing. I mean, harvest is such a cool time of the year.
It
It really is. It's fun. I mean, not
It is-
just
it
the
is
traditions.
Type 2 fun.
The just like the energy where you see grape trucks. It's the grape trucks that do it for me. It's like the trucks moving loaded in the morning, in the afternoon, the bin deliveries. The trucks. If a truck is stacked too high, it's full of grapes. If it's stacked 3 or 4 high, they're moving empty bins to the next day's harvest. I love the movement of it all. Sort of the ballet,
It's
the
very circular.
dance.
Yeah. Flows into one, flows out of the
Oh
other.
yeah, so it's kind of fun to see. You see bins on the highway. You're like, oh man, my homie's picking. Like you see people's
Oh, yeah,
bins
totally.
sprayed.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
oh, I know that. Oh, who's getting fruit from Venturi? Venturi's coming this way. I think I saw bedrock bins the other day, and I was like, oh man.
So what's up for you?
All those San Giacomo bins that are.
Let's play history.
Yes, sir.
10 years in the future. What's it look like for you, Bodkin? What do you want to be?
Where do I want to be, man? That's like a really big good question. Like I look 10 years in the future, and that's going to point in time where my kids are starting to be out of the house. So there's like a bunch of thoughts and things I want to be on at that point in time. It's almost too hard to think about. In terms of Bodkin, I'm happy doing Bodkin the way it is now, but I've also kind of been on this path, actually, kind of starting with breaking my leg back in 2018. It kind of got me thinking that, maybe what else do I want to do in life? I kind of had this potentially, I got out pretty lucky for what I do.
You still have 2 legs.
I still do.
Yeah.
There's, one of my best friends from college is a neurosurgeon. And I was telling him about it, and he goes, yeah, the number of really tragic cases I see of people coming on ATV accidents is that. And I was like, yeah, I almost, if I would have caught a shoelace or a pant, I would have been ragdolled down a 250-foot hill.
Who didn't Dave Matthews Band or East? It was either Dave Matthews Band or East Street Band lost a Carter Buford. I think died in an ATV accident, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's Dave Matthews?
Oh,
yeah, no, it's
They're hard.
It is. There are kinds of things that happen.
Yeah.
It kind of got me thinking on this, what do I want to do with my, with my life, and maybe I've been going really hard in this winery thing. Like, I have young children. I mean, I got hurt. I almost took myself out the game 2 days after my son's first birthday, and that was a big wake up call for me. Like, what do you really want to be doing, Chris? Like, is this it? I said, I don't want to be doing this and this level. And as fun as it is to run around at that stage in my life and kind of have this crazy pick schedules and always be there for the fruit and, driving these miles in my car and, crushing all this tonnage. I'm like, well, to what end? So I can make a few more cases to do this, to buy things to impress people I don't like. Like, what is this for me? This isn't the end game for me. So it really got me really focused on what's important. And, a lot of the work that I'm doing now, or that kind of opened up my eyes to, was kind of getting into mentoring. Definitely more on the side of, I got into consulting after that, like consulting winemaker for people. That's fun. I've had a really cool opportunity to work with some really awesome projects. I've worked on some unfortunately challenging projects too. So that's kind of hit or miss. It's always as good as the people you're working with, which is really cool. And I get to work with clients like Jenny and the team at Jenny and Francois. Super cool. I love that. That fills my bucket, But even from that, I was like, well, what other things are out there? Especially a lot of the emphasis put on the African-American wine community after Black Lives Matter and George Floyd. That really opened up my mind to how important visibility is.
Yeah.
So I think Bodkin Wines existing in a way and at a capacity where we're there and continue to, give opportunities and work with people, and also me personally to mentor other African Americans in the industry is really important. Growing up in Iowa, going to Stanford, moving to Sonoma County, like I am used to being the only person of my color in a room. I'm used to this. I mean, most people think I'm Latino here. You're seeing light-skinned black people in Sonoma County, right? Like, ¿dónde está? I'm like, no, dude, I don't know. Come speak to me in Spanish and stuff. I speak Spanish, so that's kind of cool.
You got to speak Spanish, at least.
You got it in this industry. I was six years in high school, between high school and college, and 20 years in the wine industry.
Stanford Spanish class is pretty good.
Yeah, they're solid. They're solid.
They are, right?
They're solid. They're super solid.
Hola, Isabel. ¿Cómo estás?
My UNR, I mean, I speak some Spanish, but my UNR Spanish classes, I don't think I worked that hard.
Nevada, Reno.
Yeah.
Wolfpack.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, dude. Colin Kaepernick, dude.
Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick.
Damn straight. The last
Other mixed race brothers in the Midwest making statements out there.
The last game that I ever went to was Colin was there. We were and it was like kind of the beginning of the Colin Kaepernick thing. We were playing Cal. I think Cal was might even like ranked 25 at the time, and first half just getting freaking destroyed. What you'd expect, a little mid-major against,
Mountain
Pac-10.
West team.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the second half, Colin, I think, ran for 3 and threw 2 touchdowns, and just huge epic comeback. Everybody bedlam, and then I don't remember the rest of the night.
We may need him this year.
They didn't even see that. They didn't see that coming. Man.
And did you see
Chris Alt?
Chris Alt, straight up.
They're like, hey, what's up? Hey, y'all seen Pistol before? You ain't seen Pistol.
You ain't seen Pistol
the
yet.
Pistol set.
What do you think how the Hawkeyes blew it this week?
Just too soon.
I was sad.
Too soon.
I was just sad.
I couldn't even be mad about that. Like the group chat went silent. My buddies growing up, like the two Iowa State guys on. There were 9 of us on the group chat. Seven University of Iowa fans, two Iowa State alumni, and it got real quiet. But those 2 dudes.
Well, look, I mean, they gave the game away, but the best of the weekend.
Yeah,
absolutely, Notre Dame. Inviting and paying University of Northern Illinois out of Sycamore, Illinois, $1.5 million to come play and get beat up.
And to not even prepare for it.
And guess what? They beat Notre Dame.
They beat Notre Dame.
They beat Notre Dame
right at the end with a 62-yard kick. And it was the kid's first college game kick. He's a freshman.
Never buying beer again.
No, he's a legend. He's going to go down.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, he's got it everywhere.
It's a big soft spot for the directional Illinois schools. My dad back in the day played at Western Illinois. Leathernecks out of
Macomb.
Yep. And that was the first member of his family to go to college on a football scholarship.
Excellent.
Back in the day, man.
Wow.
But yeah, no.
Well,
10 years from now to tighten that up, man.
Yeah.
No, I got coming out of the doing the consulting, then doing a lot of the mentoring has been really cool. But it really opened up my eyes to finally kind of get into the family business, which is education. So I've been very blessed. I kind of had a smaller harvest this year, knowing that I'm actually teaching a class at Santa Rosa Junior College, teaching Wine 3.
The
Intro to Winemaking.
Colleges.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty cool. Something I've been wanting to do for a while, and the opportunity arose to actually do it, take that on, and I embrace that. Like I think that's a really, really cool thing to get into. It's really not only fun, but also
opens
it's
up.
really cool. Like making wines is cool. Like I love making wines. I've made a number of them, been very happy with the wines I've made in my career and the blessing it's been. But building minds is even more exciting, and kind of sharing my passion with wine for other people, and kind of help educating the next kind of wave of winemakers and being involved in things that way. I find to be really fulfilling, and just kind of naturally complementary towards my skill set.
So, since you brought it up, talk about sort of the trajectory of going from a time when nobody was talking about people of color making wine or owning wineries to the visibility time, which is kind of where we're at, where we're talking about it, and there's the different organizations really pushing it. How do we get to the place where we're not talking about it anymore because it's everybody is making wine who wants to make wine and has the access to do that, and or is that something that is that just like some sort of liberal pipe dream of mine that we get to some like sort of utopia where it's a profession that has visibility and access to anybody who has that dream.
That's a really good question. Like I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah,
I'm totally with you.
You know what I mean?
How do we get to a post-racial society? And I honestly think that we're eventually going to get
a question than we're going to answer on a wine podcast.
Yeah. No, a post-racial society. And I think we're slowly getting there, one generation at a time. I think we're seeing, and this is something that I've been super aware of, is someone who my entire life has been painfully aware of being mixed race. And just kind of what that's like. And even with my half-sister, Lisa, from my dad's first marriage, who's 10 years older than I am, like her experience being mixed race is very different than mine and my brothers. And then I look at that with my own children. This is a segue to open up the light skinned, right?
There we go.
Yeah, here it is. So my dad came out and helped me with harvest in 2021, decade off. And I'm trying. My dad's not a wine guy. My dad was a great guy, not much of a wine guy, and that's cool. He grew up on the south side of Chicago, Southside Greg. And I'm trying to explain to him what I'm doing with this wine. I'm trying to make like a light skin contact wine, a wine that's like that's like lighter than red wine, darker than rosé. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna be like light skin contact. And he goes, oh man, I get it, son. Oh, it's my boy, man. You're going to make this wine light skin, just like I made you, your sister, and your brother. It's going to be light skin, just like you. And I'm like, shit, yeah, Pop. And so that was kind of that. Because as much as I is getting referred to as being a black winemaker, and I'm happy to do that. I do see myself as being part of the black community. But the way I grew up, and with the pride that I have, and how I was learned to grow up and talk about race and identity, was always being mixed race, and I'm incredibly proud of that. I'm as proud of my black side of my family, the Outlaws, actual last name. That was the last name I was born with, was Christopher Reed Outlaw. My mom amended that when she divorced my dad in 1982. With a stroke of a pen, I became Christopher Reed Christensen. It's her maiden name. So you see that like intern Greg Outlaw, like that's my dad's name. Sister's Lisa Joe Outlaw.
Well, Cedar Rapids was a very mixed town when I was growing up in the 50s and early 60s. Our neighborhood had a Republican senator, the Ginsburg family, who owned the jewelry stores.
Ginsburg Jewelers.
And they had...
The great rival of Siebke Hoyt.
Absolutely. And also we had Percy Harris family.
Yeah, he was a medical examiner.
Sure, he was ME for a long time, and I went to school with Bruce, who was a Rhodes Scholar. He kept up the intellectual part of the neighborhood. And then you have the real kind of...
What street you grew up on?
Clark Road, Southeast, 3636, and then
36 off
36
Street
for the first 8 years. Near Beaver Park. It's just a nice little town. Anyway, the point is that. It was mixed when I was growing up. Nobody ever gave a shit about any of it, so what? I was in the most mixed neighborhood I could be in, I got black, I got white, I got wealthy, I got poor, I got Republican, I got Democrat, I got Jewish, I got whatever. The coolest guy in the neighborhood was Ace Loomis, who sold insurance, and he used to play for the Green Bay Packers. So he would get us into cool sports things, Ace Loomis.
Ace Loomis.
Dude.
Yep.
You went to McKinley, right? Like
I did.
You went to Wash. Yeah, you went to Wash, go to McKinley. And that was that was the interesting thing about Cedar Rapids was like that whole neighborhood was one of the most ethnically diverse neighborhoods in town. Like going to Wash, it was just kind of had everybody across the board.
We're about to do an experiment. Good. Oh. We have some new guests on the podcast.
The highest price wine tour you can get, where you get to come be on the podcast too.
They're both from England, but I believe one living in Chicago. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, excellent. Where from in England?
I grew up in Surrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I live in London now. Oh. So Balham, southwest London.
I love London. Wow.
Are you guys drinking English sparkling wine yet? Are you getting into that?
Oh, wait, you mean not here?
No, back home. At home.
That
Back
would-
I was
home.
looking at Brian and I was like, I don't think we are.
We don't.
Yeah.
That's a really special thing.
Flying with
No,
your own English
that's the-
sparkling from Kent or
I definitely have tried it.
It is very good. So one of my friends actually worked for a winery in England, and he was supplying us with some very nice English sparkling wine that was featuring quite extensively
Cool.
in our day-to-day.
Well, will you please introduce yourselves and how did you get to Winery 16600 today?
Yeah, of course. My name's Kim. We are traveling in California and signed up mainly because of the VW camper van experience that stole our hearts.
West Wine Tour, shout out.
Yeah, and so we, this is our second winery of the day, and we didn't really know where we were coming, but we've stumbled across this great place, and so far having a great time.
Oh, this is one of the better spots in the valley. I can tell you that. Best wine in the valley.
We
have
actually
been told
heard that.
but we were
Yeah.
told we weren't meant to say it to other wineries.
Yeah.
So we'll keep it to the podcast. But
Don't
it's
tell
lovely-
anyone. Only your cool friends.
Exactly. But it's lovely to meet you. My name is Louise as well. So thank you for having us. This is an amazing experience to also be part of a podcast.
And this is Chris. These are all his wines.
yeah,
Oh,
which are
fantastic.
all painfully English themed. So
Oh,
Right. Oh, is that?
There's some Shakespeare
here it
in
is.
today.
There's your Shakespeare,
Shakespeare.
Yeah, we've been
Shakespeare.
Have a little,
Bodkin is the British the English
Arrowhead.
arrowhead.
The Warbow. We have a little Agincourt, we have a little Hotspur over here. You know.
Oh, wow. Well, Kim and I both did
gosh.
drama as well at university, so I feel like we should get these references.
We few, we happy
More.
few, we band of brothers.
I'm actually loving the labels. I'm a graphic designer, so this is what I noticed first before.
Thank you. It's-
Yeah.
I did all the label design myself.
Did you?
Fortunately,
That's
unfortunately,
very
yeah.
cool. Wait, are you on here?
I'm in the middle.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
See,
This is my family. It's my whole
That's
little
cute.
mixed race family.
that is amazing.
We all
So
like
you're a designer in
Yes, I'm a graphic
England?
designer in Chicago. I live in Chicago now. Yeah, I married an American.
where?
We live in Lakeview.
Oh, very
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's near where my son lives. I was in Lincoln Park for
Oh, that's very close.
a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah, that's very
very
close
fun.
to us.
Great
my,
place
my,
to live.
my dad, top left, was a Southside dude. Went to Lindblom Technical. He's like 30th in Indiana.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Southside. We Southsiders.
Yeah.
Socks.
the cool people. Yeah.
Louise?
And what do? I work in essentially team effectiveness, so mainly working with CEOs, helping them when they start a new team, building them together. We have
Keep
a lot
her around, Brian.
yeah, if you need any additional help, please let me know.
So you're like one of the Bobs from Office Space.
I don't know what that means. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Management consultants.
Yes, exactly.
That's hilarious.
Well, are you having
You're like, I
fun
think
in
you-
Sonoma?
Yeah, it's amazing. We it was actually one of my best friends from high school's wedding in Orinda, so we came over for that, and Kim was my plus one. Very kind of her. And then we came to Sonoma afterwards.
It's probably a beautiful weekend in Orinda. A little warm.
Yeah, they said it was very warm in California at the moment, but we're enjoying it. In the UK, we have had dreadful weather, not good for wine, I would say.
Although it is changing because they are growing some sparkling there
Yeah.
that is actually pretty good reputation-wise and taste-wise. It is changing, absolutely.
I think we're getting more of the southern France weather as things progress, but I think this summer has been particularly bad, so I'm not convinced the grapes will do that well.
Not going to be a great year in England.
No.
All right.
No,
You heard it
we've
here
had-
first.
Yeah.
Winemakers Pod.
Getting the lead.
From the most qualified. Yeah.
Qualified
Go
source.
short on English sparkling wine 2024.
Short 'em.
All right, have you had lunch today?
Not yet.
Not yet. No,
actually.
we're excited for
I think
that.
their lunch just showed
It's
up on that
en
bus
route.
that you heard come through.
Yeah.
From Ovello?
I don't know where they got lunch from today.
Past the
Vine-
WL,
was it
the
Vine
WL
Deli?
Red?
Oh,
yeah,
New
I think
Delhi.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you're here, having a great time. How long are you staying in Sonoma area, and where's next on your travels?
Just till Wednesday, so it's a very short trip. So Kim's flying back to Chicago on
Yeah.
Wednesday, and I fly back to London.
Yeah, so we've got to make the most. 2
Business
days.
class. Tell me business class.
Oh, God, Kim can tell you more about business class than me.
Only not from kind of personal experience.
Well, it's just such a long flight. We get on in San Jose and get off at Heathrow. It's a long flight from here.
Yeah, you want to lie down and have a good sleep, I'd say.
Definitely.
Yeah, if
I don't
you
fit
can.
in coach anymore.
Yeah.
No,
At the very least, you got to hit a dispensary on your way out of town and load up on the edibles. Then it doesn't matter where you're sitting.
Okay, I need to add that to my to-do list before leaving.
I've heard. Somebody told me.
Sonoma? Really? Yes, it's some of the best growing area in the world.
We grow good things.
Yeah,
Look at these tomatoes.
Ladies, if you want to have
Oh,
some fresh
I
tomatoes.
love tomatoes.
That plant right over there.
Chris, sorry I didn't offer you, but
These are my absolute favorite.
I'm not pretty enough.
We also were like
I don't
about to
have a
dive
terribly,
into
I don't have a
super-
terribly charming accent. Like I just have the accent neutral English of a great cedar Rapidian. So
That is a fantastic tomato.
That's delicious. Oh my
Tomato-
gosh.
tomato.
Do you say tomato?
I say tomato.
Whatever.
Well,
Oh my God.
I grew up in Singapore, so I will sometimes sound American because I've got a bit of an international accent.
Yeah.
So I will say things like garbage, but in a very English.
Not
Yeah.
Yes.
As
No,
opposed to
no.
rubbish. Okay. As opposed to what?
My aunt's husband, my uncle, was like painful English, like from Banbury. And, like he was a
yeah,
doctor,
yeah.
so he was just had the most kind of posh, foppish accent.
Oh, Banbury's lovely.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
just like one of those guys.
Hey,
That's so
if,
funny.
if you're out of Mayfair, you're too far out of London for me.
Oh, outside of Mayfair. Oh, okay.
That's exactly where I want
Is that
to
where
stay.
you stay? Yeah, Mayfair's stunning. Absolutely.
Cool.
I like Mayfair.
first time I had wine, like,
It's
when I
just,
was, like,
the
14 years
area
old.
we've always stayed in. I didn't
Sherry.
know
He was
exactly what it
making,
was
like,
when
one
we
of
got
those,
there.
like a tripod.
That's the most expensive
Sherry's
area on our
gold as
Monopoly
well.
board in England,
This guy was
Mayfair.
incredibly big.
Yeah.
Yeah, we find a little hotel around the corner from Harrods. And,
Yeah.
We've just been there a lot, and we know the area, and we can walk to Chelsea, and we can walk here and there, and we just, Joan had the opportunity to see the Stones last concert in Hyde Park. She's also saw them a year or two before there. Elton John there, Rod. Anytime she's traveling there on business, she's making sure she's hitting the concert scene.
Yeah.
And maybe just staying a couple days extra. I think that's smart traveling.
I approve of this message.
All right. Well, we should.
them back.
All right, back to lunch.
Thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
us.
This is
Such a
Can we get a
pleasure.
photo with you guys as
Absolutely.
Oh
well?
my god, yeah.
Oh, you got it?
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Sam, any shout outs?
Set the booth on fire.
Shout outs. Yeah. We got cheese. Say Grenache. You can't not smile when you're saying Grenache.
This is great. I
Speaking
love
of Grenache,
They like
it.
it.
It's so fab.
Yeah, it was the wine I originally made with my dad.
It's super fun as well. It's like unusual.
Yes, Sam.
no, we're talking about the light skin. It's delicious.
Too dark to be rosé, too light to be red wine. Much like my family, who's too black to be white, too white to be black.
Oh my God, I love
So we
I
light,
love the concept.
we light
Yeah.
skin. We light skin.
I love that
I love the
so
name
much.
of
Oh,
it.
thank you.
That was my dad came.
All right.
My dad's not a wine.
Sam, let's tie it
My
up
dad's
here
dude
real
from
quick.
Southside, Chicago.
And
He's like a-
we're just going to.
Yeah. He was born there in
dial it
1947.
Any
Like back when the
shout-outs?
South Side was like, there was no yoga, there was no white people, there was like South Side was Bronzeville. It was like in a black neighborhood, right? So my dad was there.
But the best music.
Absolutely, all the good,
There you go.
all the good jazz. I mean, Jennifer Hudson, she was from the neighborhood. She came from the neighborhood. Yeah, I mean, Ike Turner,
wine is delicious.
or,
Yeah.
Ike and Tina Turner were like friends with my great aunt because they're also from East St. Louis originally. Like, kind of random things there. But yeah, no, I was trying to explain wine to him, and I was like, dude, I'm trying to do a chillable red, Dad. And it's like light skin contact, and it's like it's gonna be too darker and red. It's gonna be darker and rosé, lighter than red wine. And he goes, "Oh, you gonna make it light skin, just like I made you and your sister and your brother." So I had to go put the family tree on the label for that. Just shout out to Pops.
Well, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by.
Enjoy your tasting.
Awesome, enjoy your trip here.
How nice. I would love to be on a trip on a vacation back here. I mean, we always came out here and had these great vacations, and we moved.
And now we complain about weekends when there's no, there's traffic on the
I
plaza.
mean, you grew up around here, right?
I grew up- so
Yeah,
I-
you're like an old school family here.
Yeah.
Y'all been here for a minute.
Up
for a
the
minute,
hill.
a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Up the hill.
Up the hill. Yeah. When we grew up in the hills when it was the sticks and
Like
not,
homesteaders,
and not quite homesteaders, but definitely not like when it was neighborhoods of rich and famous. It was hippies.
back in the days when like the regular Italian bakers could have a house like one block off the square walking distance of their business, and now that's $2.6 million.
Oh yeah,
Well,
Pearl 1-2.
but I look back on CR, and the Polish bakeries. Cedar Rapids had a very big community made up of Eastern European.
Czech and Slovak, baby. We're home of the National
They got,
Czech
like,
and Slovak
pierogies
Museum.
And they made
Kolaches, baby.
kolaches,
Kolach?
pierogies,
Pierogies, yeah.
you know, and things like this. But it was we grew up with them because that's what somebody's mom made. We ate them all the time,
Yeah.
and but it was very cool. Our grocery store, the Caceres,
The Caceres.
two brothers on 2nd Avenue, out just but cute. I mean, you go in and it's got that old dirt floor, a wooden floor, but it's been walked on. You know, it's gone. And they had maybe two checkout lanes, maybe. You know, yeah. I watched them slice and grind meat for the first times. Always have to stay over here, away from the saw, Johnny. But yeah, I really do go back to CR a lot. My sister and I talk about it a lot. And I mentioned you to her, and she just wanted to know if the trees were okay now in Cedar Rapids. So
no, dude, that's like Cedar Rapids now looks like the top of my head. Like it's like Beaver Park doesn't look the same. Like all that was devastated with Beaver Park. Like go Park to the Country Club.
Sam,
one of my friends' houses
Beaver Park
was nearly
where I
destroyed.
spent most of my time as a kid on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Because they had a cool pool. They had
a petting zoo,
and we could go buy our baseball cards and the bubble gum and all that crap.
That drugstore that's right there on the corner by Beaver Park.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I used to watch Friends.
Winemakers podcast number one in Cedar Rapids.
We need to get out of here. Shout outs, Sam.
Shout outs. We got some events coming up. Grenache Day is around the corner. Grenache Day, Rhone Rangers on the Wednesday. So Grenache Day is September 20th. The Wednesday of that is the 18th. We're doing like a Grenache webinar with a bunch of producers. I'm going to get on there and talk about a new Grenache we got coming out. And then if you're in town, Friday night, the 20th at Baker & Cook, we're going to do a little Somm takeover and pour a bunch of Grenache with with the menu over there. Doing some tastings at the Beach Chalet and Lake Chalet in Oakland and out on Ocean Beach. And Vinyl Sunday with the Bone Diggers.
October 6th.
October 6th at the barn. Look for a ticket link.
It'll be a blast.
I'm sure Bart would have some shout-outs. Vintage Festival's coming up. That's the weekend of the 29th, I believe. 28th, 29th. Bunch of stuff going with that. The dinner, the parade.
Dinner's sold out.
Parade, but
I think there were a couple tickets left for
for the dinner. And he's got his dinner at Glen Ellen Star.
That's going to be great. Did I see that they were going to open another restaurant?
They are opening like an Italian restaurant in Kenwood.
Right.
And vote no on Measure J.
Yeah. And Jeb Dunnick.
Jeb Dunnick.
Jeb Dunnick?
I don't know.
Did I see that he passed away?
No.
Oh.
Not that unless it was something that's happened this morning. I don't think so.
Not this morning, but within the last couple, I thought I heard something that Jeb, okay, well then I have made, I don't want, that's why I asked. I'm just,
that would be,
just to let you know,
I
thought I saw something because of course, the Rhone Rangers. So, Chris, what up?
One day ago, he was drinking.
Okay, good.
2009 shots enough.
That's better than being dead.
I think.
Sorry, Jeb. Didn't want to lead to your early demise.
And you want to put that on his name.
Go vote for somebody who's proudly mixed race this year. Just gonna throw that out there and figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
It's one of those black jobs.
It's an easy fix.
Winemaker. That's one of those black jobs.
Winery owner, professor.
I think we
professor of winemaking. Just black jobs.
Send a copy of this
President.
to
black job.
You're coming for your black job.
Right, dude.
God damn it. All right, man. Thanks for listening to The Winemakers. I'm John Myers. We'll talk to you next week.
Subscribe, review, tell your friends.
Thanks, Chris.
Cool ones.
You're good.
Thanks for having me.